Even after fighting warriors from another universe, it seems like Tien is still one of the strongest people out there. But that's just Universe 6. What about beyond that? We'll be covering all that and more in this 8th part of What If Tien Was the Strongest. So, following the Universe 6 tournament, there's not going to be anything with Zamasu. He probably would hear of Tien. I mean, I'm sure the fight would go up on GodTube, but there hasn't been any time travel in this scenario. Which means, no Zero Mortals plan. Zamasu would probably be pretty pissed off about Tien, but I think it'll just be left at that. It's not enough to send him over the edge. So, there's basically just a year of nothing. And then once the Super Dragon Balls are back, Zeno decides to gather them and set the Tournament of Power in motion. It'll be pretty much the same exact format, the only difference is there's no exhibition match here because that's not needed. Naturally, everyone in every universe freaks out, but Universe 7 is pretty content with where they are. Beerus feels like his team might have this in the bag. He's not really sure what other types of fighters are out there, but the 3 people on his planet have grown really strong, and he has a few reasons to believe his fighters are actually the strongest. So, what's the team going to be? Well, obviously Tien's going to be on there, so are Goku and Vegeta. Then there would probably be Kami, Gohan, Krillin, Chaozu, Yamcha, and Roshi. With Krillin and Yamcha of course being stronger in this scenario, and Chaozu being in Ginyu's body, also way stronger than normal. By the way, in case I haven't made it clear, Chaozu is the 2nd strongest human right now behind Tien. He's not on the level of Goku, Vegeta, or Gohan, but the 2nd strongest human is still a good title for him. But that's only going to be 9 fighters. Who else could they recruit for the team? There's no androids here because they're dead, and they have all the human fighters on their team, well, unless they get Yajirobe. But Goku suggests maybe reviving one of their old villains. They have a couple people in mind, but that is way too risky. Also, Tien has a better idea. Actually, 2 ideas. He says in the worst case scenario, they could actually revive someone from Otherworld. You know, he and Goku did spend some time up there, and maybe they could find somebody strong. But they may not even need to do that. Kami actually gave him a really good idea. Tien says he'll be back momentarily, and he uses the Kai Kai to teleport to Namek. Mori's the current elder, and he explains the situation to him. And unlike Goku, he doesn't lie about anything, he actually just tells him up front that, yeah, the entire universe is at stake. The Namekians were up to help regardless, but now, they really want to help. Although they're concerned because their strongest warrior might not be enough. Especially because they get a glimpse of Tien's power, and even though they're willing to help, they're not really too sure what they can do. And that's fine. Tien understands and gets ready to head back to Earth, but then someone else butts in. It's Nail, the strongest warrior here. Of course, he's way stronger than he was in the Namek arc in the main story, because he's gonna have like a decade extra of training on top of what he had there. But it's not just that. He just wants to know one thing. Earth has its own set of Dragon Balls right now, right? And yeah, they do. That's fine. Then, they're gonna take no risk in doing this. He has a proposal. All of the Namekians fuse into him, creating an incredibly powerful warrior for the tournament. Tien thinks that's insane. They don't really need to go that far for this, but Nail says to think about it. If they get erased, it doesn't really matter anyways. But if they do end up winning, they could just use the Dragon Balls on Earth to unfuse. So there's not much risk they're taking here. And yeah, that actually does make sense, so why not do it? And that's exactly what Nail does. Tien watches as all the Namekians gather together, ready to temporarily lend themselves to Nail, just so he can get enough power to help out the team. And this results in a really strong fusion. He even thinks about merging into Kami, but they would still be short one fighter in that case, and it might be better to do it like this. But this is great. Nail now has all the power and knowledge of all the Namekians around him. I'd imagine he'd be the 4th strongest on the team, behind Goku, Vegeta, and Tien. So, he's going to be a really valuable 10th member. Tien comes back to Earth, lets everyone know what just happened, and they're amazed to see a Namekian warrior that strong. Especially Kami. Wow, he just told Tien to go to Namek to see if there's any strong warriors there, but he didn't even think of everyone merging together. But it makes sense because that kind of helped with him after all. And Nail looks forward to fighting alongside them, especially Kami. They're both fused Namekians with great power, and maybe they can learn something from each other. And this also makes Goku wonder, should they fuse at all during the tournament? Vegeta says he's not going to do that. He wants to fight alone. But if things get really bad, Goku says that's at least a last resort. And Tien has that too, he could do his own fusion. Not to mention, Gohan knows the dance as well, and so does pretty much everyone on the team by now. It's too valuable of a thing for everyone to not learn. The only person who doesn't is Roshi because he has been training on his own, but he hasn't been training with everyone else. And Nail probably doesn't know it either, but that doesn't matter. If anyone needs to fuse, they can. But they might not even need to do that. The tournament begins and it becomes really clear that Universe 7 is really strong. And look, I love the human characters. I mean, I'm making a whole what if about Tien here, but let's be honest, in the Tournament of Power and the main story, they were dead weight. Tien, Krillin, and Roshi didn't really do too much. Sure, they might have had a few cool scenes or whatever, but in terms of power, there's no way they were going to last the entire tournament, and they were kind of just filling slots there. Again, I love them, and I'm one of the few people that tries to not lowball them. Like, I made a whole video scaling them after all. But there's a reason I kind of skim over them in every what if in terms of the Tournament of Power. Here, though, that's different. The entire team is stacked. Roshi's really the only weak fighter here, and he's probably going to be relative to where he was normally. Like, he did his own secret training as normal. But as for everyone else, well, Krillin and Yamcha are stronger than normal, and Krillin was already pretty strong to begin with. Same for Yamcha, again, I made that whole video scaling them. A lot of people kind of underestimate him. As for Chaozu, it kind of goes without saying because he barely even fought in Dragon Ball Super. But here, not only is he a valuable warrior, he's the strongest Earthling besides Tien. And then look at the rest of the team. Kami is basically the Piccolo of this scenario. Like, I'd imagine he's weaker than where Piccolo was at this time, but I mean, they're the same person. Gohan, I'd imagine, would have ultimate by now because of Tien telling him, so we'll put him to where he was normally. Goku and Vegeta are stronger than normal. And then, obviously, there's Tien, who's, well, the strongest. I mean, that's the name of the story. It kind of goes without saying. So, I would usually gloss over the rest of the team because, let's be honest, some of them are too weak. But here, I'm only going to gloss over things because the team is too strong. Like, most of the team wouldn't have any problem with their fights. Sure, the other universes do have some really strong fighters. But think of what everyone's working with here. If there's a problem, they're not going to fight alone, and if there's still a problem then, people could fuse together. Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan lasted pretty long in the tournament normally, and with Kami being in Piccolo's place and Nail being even stronger than him, they're going to do fine. Especially considering Nail's the 4th strongest on the team. He's going to be able to hold his own really well. So I'm not going to cover the individual fights. Let's just go over to Jiren. I think naturally Goku would want to fight him, and so does Tien. Tien's more cautious, especially with him being one of the 2 Guardians of Earth because, let's be honest now, both he and Kami are kind of pulling the same weight there, but still he likes to test himself as a warrior, that's just part of who he is. So, since they don't want to fight together, Goku's going to settle this in the easiest way possible. They do rock, paper, scissors in front of Jiren. Tien ends up winning, but he kind of cheats because, thanks to his greater eyesight, he's able to predict moves more easily. Plus, Goku suspects he's cheating for another reason. Anyways, Tien fights first. He goes into his ultimate form. Now, his ultimate form looks kind of different. Before there wasn't really any change, but he always activates 4 witches now when he uses ultimate. It's not like that increases his power or anything, but since the form is just naturally drawing out all his potential, that includes the fact that he can grow 2 extra arms. Plus, I know you're all expecting this is my way of including that meme of Tien where he has that, like, badass edit of him. Like, we're 8 parts in, I was kind of being subtle about that, but dude, it's an April Fool's what if, of course I was gonna go for this. He's a little bit below Jiren, which is fine, because he's not using his full power. He taps into Kaioken, specifically Evolved Kaioken, stacking it on top of Ultimate. He simply calls this Ultimate Kaioken. 4 arms, ultimate, and a Kaioken multiplier. He doesn't even know what the Kaioken multiplier he's using right now is. It's just whatever the max is that he can handle. And the great thing about it is, he's not always constantly using it at his top level. His body automatically adjusts Kaioken so it doesn't overuse it. So like if he's standing still, it's 0, but if he attacks, then it just jumps up to the maximum instantly. And by using this, he's comfortably above Jiren. Plus, he's really fast right now. And Jiren notices that he's dodging attacks preemptively at one point, which might just be a coincidence due to his speed. There's also the fact that his great vision means that he can analyze things better, which is really helpful in predicting moves, just by looking at small changes in an opponent's stance. Anyways, by using this, he's able to push Jiren into his full power, and with his full power, he's now above Ultimate Kaioken Tien, not by a significant margin. So Tien fights like this for a little bit, and he's glad to see his limits here, thanking Jiren for that. Jiren wonders why he's not taking it seriously yet, but that's because he's still holding back. And while testing his power out against Jiren, he actually split himself into 4. Jiren didn't even notice that there's 3 other versions of Tien there. 2 of them have already fused into each other, creating Merged Tien, although it's just one half of it. That Merged Tien attacks Jiren, while the other 2 Tiens go and fuse. Then, the one attacking Jiren performs a solar flare. And Jiren still tries to attack during this, but just to help out his friend, Chaozu then jumps in, using all of his power and focus to briefly freeze time for Jiren, giving Tien the opening he needs to fully fuse together, recreating the true Merged Tien. And while fused, he's stronger than Ultimate Kaioken Tien. So technically he's still holding back here because base Merged Tien is stronger than him, and also stronger than Jiren. Typically he likes to fight alone, but he likes to think this still counts as fighting alone. It's just his power after all. Merged Tien briefly fights Jiren, and then he's able to knock him out of the ring. This fusion of course is really powerful, but one downside is that it lasts only a few minutes, unlike regular fusions that last longer. That is because he's splitting himself into 4 and he's fusing with himself. It's kind of unstable. He's worked on it a little bit to make it more efficient, but it still has that issue. But it's very good as a last resort though. Which is why Goku's pretty surprised to see him use this because there's no need for a last resort. Tien didn't show off his full strength against Jiren. Really, he just wanted an excuse to break this out again. It's kind of fun merging with himself. There still are a lot of strong fighters in the tournament, and Tien's not going to interrupt any of those fights, but he decides to do something else. Right after unfusing, he then uses the multi-form again. He doesn't just create 4 clones, he splits his power up a bunch. Nail and Kami see this and realize what he's doing. Even though he's dividing his power a lot, it's strength in numbers. Maybe they could try something out like that too, using it themselves as well. Universe 7 now has dozens of extra fighters. They're just clones of Tien, Kami, and Nail. And they're not particularly strong because of how much they divided themselves, but it's good to clean up a lot of the weaker fighters, and then they merge back together into their normal selves, leaving only a handful of other strong fighters from other universes in the ring. And right now, things are looking pretty good for them. Universe 7 has only lost Roshi so far, and with their strongest fighters still kicking, they can fight a lot of the people from the other universes too. Soon enough, everyone's knocked out of the ring, and Universe 7 is the only one remaining. And Goku walks up to Tien at the end of the tournament. Why was he holding back? And Tien says he can ask Goku the same question. Kami overhears this and he's a bit confused. What does he mean Tien was holding back? He fused with himself. Well, yeah, technically that's a really strong thing for him, but Goku says he was holding back while unfused. And Vegeta says he doesn't understand why the 2 of them are hiding it, because he also hit it too. The three of them thought it would be kind of unfair to use this, in the sense that it would make the fights kind of boring for them. In their training, the three of them have unlocked Ultra Instinct. They only have Omen by now, but still, it would have been really easy to defeat everyone here. Part of it was because they wanted to enjoy themselves, and part of it was because if they actually used that power, all the other universes would panic and break out their trump cards. And who knows what things they would have had in store. As the leader of the team and one of the people with the most eliminations, Tien gets the wish here, wishing to restore all the other universes. They all go back to Earth, and just like they planned before, the Dragon Balls on Earth are used to unfuse Nail. It was pretty fun fighting as one merged Namekian, although it makes him kind of wonder how strong he would have been if he merged with Kami. That would have been really powerful. Imagine that, two Namekians with their potential unlocked merging together. And Kami's not sure what he's talking about. He just merged with his old self and then kept training. Wait, so he hasn't had his potential unlocked? Because Nail has. That's something the previous Elder Guru could do and now Moro can do. Does Kami know how to do that himself? No, actually he doesn't. Nail suggests he should do that. And Tien says he could just go to Elder Kai for that. I mean, that's what he and Gohan did. That's how they got their ultimate forms. But they still do have Shenron in front of them, and he has a suggestion. Because he is Kami's dragon after all, he would like to help out Kami. This is kind of a cheat code and a loophole for the dragon, but he can make his own creator even stronger. Kami could just wish for Shenron to unlock his potential. And he's kind of on the spot here, but he decides to do so. And Shenron does exactly that. He draws out all of Kami's power, plus a little bit extra. And Kami thanks him. He got a ton stronger from this. But he tells Shenron they don't need the third wish, so Shenron just disappears. Nail then returns home. Following this, we have what would be the Moro arc. And the reason I say that is because it's going to be stopped pretty early on. Meros would come to Earth and recruit Goku and Vegeta, and probably Tien as well, because even without Majin Buu here, there's some pretty strong fighters on Earth that could help him out. And not to mention, since he's attacking Namek, they need to do everything in their power to defend it. The Namekians are their allies and friends. Of course they're going to go there. And considering they all have Ultra Instinct Omen, well, the fight with Moro is pretty short. He would try to take their power, but at some point, they try and use Ultra Instinct to get around it, which works just like it did when Goku fought him in the main story. So they're able to defeat Moro pretty quickly. Vegeta's actually the one to kill him. Although he is a bit annoyed because Moro wasn't really a strong opponent, he was just using everyone else's power against them. But on top of that, even though Ultra Instinct makes him powerful, he feels he could be doing more, especially because he's just on par with Kakarot right now and still behind Tien. He'll figure out a way to surpass them no matter what. And with that, we'll leave off here for now. What'd you guys think about this part? What's going to happen next? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel, and it shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.